Hello again, everyone. This is Joe Hentges with Beyond the Chart. In this stock review video, we're going to take a look at a couple of ETFs, actually 3 ETFs today. And I got my Texas cowboy hat on because we're going to be focusing on oil, and oil is pretty near and dear to the hearts of Texas. So we're going to start off with the energy ETF XLE. And then the second one we're going to take a look at is the oil and gas exploration and production XOP. And finally, we're going to take a look at the oil services sector with the oil services ETF OIH. So stay tuned. Okay, let's start off here with the XLE, the energy ETF. Now, this is a fairly active ETF, very active actually. 14.8 million is a 50-day moving average of volume on this ETF. So heavily traded, very liquid. You can see we've got a short-term trend that's trying to turn to the upside, but I think it's going to be running into the resistance. This dotted line I've got in here is the middle of this descending triangle, okay? This consolidation that was going on, and that kind of coincides with the tops that were created over here. Now, there wasn't a lot of support that was made for this move back in here, but it was right in the middle of the consolidation that we had here in February into March. So I have a feeling that's going to create some significant resistance for this little counter trend move. We'll watch to see how long does this last and what kind of strength comes into it. When we look at the longer term view of the XLE, let me go ahead and zoom back out of this. I'll come back to that. We'll take a look at that in a minute. Let me zoom back out. Okay, here is everything I've got on XLE back into beginning of 1999. And you can see here's the big sell-off 2008, 2009, this long-term trend from the low of 2002. And this has went to a new high, a higher high above that huge peak that was made in 2008. We got that in 2014, but then we came back down and shattered this long-term trend line, and that's fairly significant. And you know, we started to go to lower lows in here, and you know, now we got a little bit of a lower high type of look. We tried to pull back to that trend line a couple of times. There was the first quick one. Then we broke this downward trend here with this counter trend move, and this is what I was doing with that retracement. I was looking to see what have we retraced of this big downward move. We've retraced just a little over 50%. Okay, let's say about 55% of it. Now, what I'm seeing is that on the weekly chart, the short-term trend has turned to the downside, which really to me is kind of an intermediate type trend because we are talking about weeks. Notice how the bars are all staying in the closes, are all staying below that 10-week moving average. And that 10-week, the blue line's a 10 EMA, the blue-gray's a 21 SMA. Simple, okay? So when it crosses to the downside, the trend, short-term trend on the weekly chart is negative, all right? And so that's what I'm watching for here. Will this continue to do this? Now, what would be a sign that something's changing? A sign that something's changing is if we get a couple of closes above that 10-week moving average, and then that would be a sign to me that, okay, well, maybe it is trying to continue to move up and this was just a short retracement. But right now, I'm going to lean to the fact that things are looking negative into the downside. Let's take a look at XOP. We're looking at a similar type thing on XOP. Look how the same kind of thing is happening here, short-term trend to the upside. You know, selling came in just above 38.5. Slightly below where selling came in over here on March 1st. And, you know, we've had a pretty good little short-term rally, although it's not nearly as big as what we just looked at on XLE, about 38% retracement of this move from the high on December 12th. Let's zoom back out of it. This is the picture on the daily chart. And let's go ahead and take a look at the longer-term chart of XOP. And here is everything I've got on it. And you can see it punched to a higher high above that 2008 peak. And then the huge trend line broken to the downside right in here in 2014. And this looks very much like counter trendish. Now, is it possible that this is the first move of a new onward and upward trend, it's always possible. But right now, I got to say the short-term trend is to the downside when we've broken this move here. And, you know, until, again, like I've just mentioned, until we start closing above that 10-week moving average and staying there for at least a couple of weeks and breaking the highs, you got to say that the trend is to the downside. Okay, and the next one we'll take a look at is the oil services sector. A little different picture. I mean, we had a high, a similar type high here on December 12th. And, you know, we came down to March, and then we had a quick snap back after it broke that trend line, quick snap back, and then we tried again, and we're getting some resistance at that level where this prior low was. Low was 31.58 or 31.59, let's call it. So just slightly above 31.5. And here's this longer term trend line from January of 2016 that's been broken. Let's take a look at the, you know, it's the same type of pattern too that I just mentioned on the others, where we've got the moving averages crossing here to the upside. But sometimes you just get that little bit of a counter trendish type move, and then it collapses back down. And what is the bigger trend on the weekly chart? Let's take a look at the weekly chart. You can see it's crossed and moved down to the downside, and it's been trending below that 10-week. And we've got this longer term, you know, it's the same type of picture that we just had, actually. Same trend line. This is the same one we just looked at on the daily chart. But we're continuing to stay below, and to me, this isn't going to change until you start to get closes and movement back above that 10-week moving average. And this is all the picture on the oil services. You can see that this was not nearly as strong as the XLE or the XOP in terms of it did not even come close to punching above that 2008 high, and then has broken back down again. So got very close to exactly that low, and I don't think it didn't quite go below it. And then we've gotten this little, what looks like a three-wave type move coming off of that, which looks counter trendish to me. Now we'll watch and see how it plays out. All of these ETFs today is April 12th, Wednesday, April 12th. It's the middle of the day. By the way, all these weekly closes are for the week ending April 7th. And we've had a couple of days of trading here so far this week. And here today, Wednesday, all of these ETFs are trading down at the moment. All right, that's it for this video. And if you felt like the video was helpful, please click the like button. And remember to share the video with friends and family and on your favorite social media. All right, that's it for today. Everyone have a great rest of the day, rest of the week. We'll talk to you on the next video.